Okay, people are still joining, so we'll give them a second. If you have a digital copy, make sure you make a copy of your digital copy so you can correct on it. If you have a paper copy, get your special grading pen. I miss my special grading pens. They're like locked in school, along with other things. Does anyone have any good news while we wait for people to join? Ouch. The silence. Oh my god. No good news. Sad.
My work is still open, so I'm still like able to leave my house at least.
That makes me jealous. Cool. I would like give anything to leave my house. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad for you. That is cool. I would seriously like do anything to leave my house right now. But it's all good. All right, John's here. So it's a party, and let's see where the rest of everybody is. Okay. I'm gonna try to make me the big person in this. Nope, that's not it. Okay. So where's speaker? Okay. So I'm going to go through this, but I need some audience participation because some of these are like based on your participation because that's how we do it. So when it gets to that point, make sure you do that. So everybody make sure you have a copy that, like, you made a copy of yours, that yours is submitted, but you made a copy so you can correct one of them. And I am on page 399. And you were supposed to look at your tongue in a mirror with some good light. And what you should have seen, if you stick your tongue out, is on the side of your tongue, you have foliate. So one of the things you should have seen are the foliate ones, which are these sort of sharp ones on the sides of your tongue. Those are the ones that don't have any taste buds. Then in the middle of your tongue, you have fungiform ones. You may have had the experience where, I'm sure you probably did and maybe didn't know what it was. Sometimes these, like, necrose or die, and they, like, make a little hard, angry spot on your tongue for a bit, and then they, like, fall out, and then it's better. So just a fun thing about fungiform on the surface of your tongue. And then if you really stick your tongue out wide, so if you did a good job of this, you should have seen the circumvallate ones. Where's my tongue? And they make like a little V in the back of your tongue. You have to really stick your tongue out to see it. Clearly, we will not be going to the slaughterhouse this year, but if we were going to the slaughterhouse this year, you would see that a tongue like goes all the way back and attaches to your hyoid bone, and it's like huge. You wouldn't see human tongues there, but you would see cow tongues, which are like big enough to eat. You have to cook them for a long time. So you should have had, the answers are foliate, circumvallate, and fungiform. I would know all three of those, and I would, for your test, and I would definitely know that the taste buds are on the circumvallate and the fungiform, but not the foliate. Let's flip the page. In activity 3, you poured sugar on your dry tongue, or somebody at your household's dry tongue. Let's have a who in a show. Sammy. Awesome. Show me how many fingers. How many people had 1 minute? How many people it took less than a minute for them to taste the sugar? How many people took more than a minute? Yeah, because you got your tongue really dry. So, anybody more than 2 minutes? Yeah, okay, so Maddie, how long did it take you?
Over 5 minutes, but it was done with a 5th grader, so I don't know how accurate that is.
5th graders are great subjects. They're perfect. No, that's good. I think that That is completely like within the norm. If your tongue is really dry and they're really sticking it out, I actually think that a fifth grader is a great subject because they are more participatory. They're less like, oh, let's get this done. They're like really sticking their tongue out.
He was
Yeah,
really unhappy with it.
yeah. If your tongue is dry forever, then you will never taste it. So there's that. Okay, so a star circle answer, why couldn't you taste the sugar immediately? It was because in order to taste for the sugar to attach to the receptors on your tongue, they need to be dissolved. It needs to be in solution. So you can't taste solids. You have to taste something that can dissolve in your saliva. So something like that for the answer. Cool? Okay. All right. Then you did smell, texture, temperature, taste. You did the little taste things with little tiny pieces of food. Was the sense of smell equally important in all cases? Any answer that you have, if you have a thoughtful answer, is correct. But generally speaking, the answer is probably not. I used the example of hard-boiled eggs and like a piece of string cheese. The string cheese, like those are very different things. But if you just put them on your tongue and you can't smell them, they're very similar. And then as soon as you unplug your nose, it's like hard-boiled egg has, particularly when I make them, I hard-boil eggs the night before and crack them and put them in a container, and then I cut them up at school. So they're like, have had time to evolve a smell. And they're smelly. They're really smelly, gross. So they have a very pungent smell. And so when the food has the same so the second part of that is, when does it seem to be most important and why? When food has the same texture, the smell tends to be more important to identifying it. Does anyone have contributions to that idea? Is that in line with what everybody saw? Yes? Okay. Cool. Okay, then now I want to hear what you guys used. Did you guys find taste oils in your, or like, do you essence, like, besides vanilla extract, did you guys find like mint or orange or something in your cupboards, or did you have to go?
Yeah, I use almond.
Oh, okay, cool. I like almond and have that.
I use peppermint.
What did you use, Molly?
Peppermint.
Good. Did anyone have to resort to condiments?
I had to use mustard.
But mustard's a good one because it's pungent. Like, as long as you have something pungent, you're good. So, okay. So when you use a cotton swab to apply the drop to the subject's tongue, could they distinguish the flavor? Answers vary for that. It depends on how well they're plugging their nose. So clearly if you wrote anything, that's fine. Flip the page. Then they open their nostrils, and they should report like a much better identification when they can smell it, because the whole idea is that it's pungent. A lot of those things, if you were ever a kid that that smelled the vanilla extract and were like, it smells awesome, and then I always let my kids taste it, and it's essentially like dirt and vodka, so they do not love. We make our own, actually. So fun fact. You can make your own vanilla extract. You should. It's easy. It will probably be the step that will be difficult for you, perhaps, is obtaining vodka. But my daughter Evelyn and I did it when she was 5, and we went to the liquor store and we were like, "Let's get some vodka." I've probably shared that I am allergic to alcohol, so I never go like. I was just about as good as Evelyn, and they were like, "Let's find a vodka and make some vanilla extract." But we did, and all you do is cut up to vanilla beans and put it in the vodka, and like 2 weeks later you have really good vanilla extract. But if you taste it, it tastes like dirt and vodka. So, but it's the smell that that lends to your baking. So probably if you just have it on your tongue, they don't identify it, it's gross, and then you can smell it and you're like, aha, a thing. Okay, so when you hold one swab under the subject's nose while touching the second swab to their tongue, so when you did like one and the other, just show of hands, how many people had they sensed the one that was on their tongue, like the one they were tasting? 1. How many people sensed the one that was on their under their nose? Yeah, that's very typical. So, so that is the most typical. It depends. And then, like Michael said that he was using mustard, which is again a less. When they're both extracts, they're both sort of equally pungent. Most people have the sense of smell being the most important one, which means that the answer to number 7, Michael, if you have taste, that's fine. But the answer should be smell. And so make sure it does say smell. Smell is the most important component to taste. Like, or to what we think of as tasting. Like, not actually tasting, but what you think of as tasting. Cool?
It's just that when it said taste, the reason why I put taste because I did my sister, by the way.
Yep.
Mustard tasting vanilla, she thought it tasted like salty vanilla. That sort of thing, like they were sort of combined.
Okay. Yeah. It's just, it is good to know for your exam that taste is very subordinate to smell in what we perceive as taste. Okay, then you put some ice cubes in your mouth and you tried another food again. Generally speaking, you should have found that you had less sensation or you were less good at identifying things because the cold makes the food molecules less volatile. And so there's less smell, there's less taste because less of the molecules are moving around and attaching to your tongue. So generally speaking, cold temperatures make things less tasty. All right, flip the page. On page 402, you didn't do the little smelly vials, which is a loss for everybody, but so be it. Okay, olfactory adaptation. Let's do a little show of hands again. Olfactory adaptation. How many people's olfactory adaptation lasted for it took them a minute to stop smelling? How many people it took 2 minutes to stop smelling? 3 minutes? 4 minutes? How many people quit before they had olfactory adaptation? Good job, persistence. Okay, cool. And then you repeated it with the other nostril. How long did it take? Less time with the second nostril?
It took way less time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason is, in the next chapter, we'll do like the respiratory system, and we'll look at like a cross section of their head cut off. And you share air up there. There's a nasal septum, but it's not perfect, and your olfactory receptors are being sensed, so you definitely have less time with the second one, second nostril. And then you smelled a second thing. So like you switched from vanilla to peppermint or something. How long did that take you? Did it take the same amount of time or less? How many people same amount of time? How many people less amount of time? How many people more amount of time? So it's kind of all over the place. In theory, it should be the same amount of time. Like, theoretically, it should be the same amount of time because each individual smell you have to adapt to, so you have olfactory adaptation on each individual smell. However, at some point, your olfactory receptors can just get overwhelmed and just be like, I'm done. And sometimes you perceive that as adaptation, even though it's not really. So it's why you shouldn't smell a bunch of perfumes at once. When we do it, the smells, like this, like, bunch of smells in class, I have, like, a little pod of coffee, and we sniff it in between, like we're sniffing perfumes. All right, let's go to page 403. I would put a star circle on most of this page.
This one, I have a question, actually.
Okay, yep, go for it.
When you say nostril 1, nostril 2, is nostril 1 the left one, nostril 2 the right one?
It doesn't matter. As long you do one first, and then you switch to the second one. It doesn't matter which, yeah.
Doesn't matter, okay.
Yeah, it does. No, it is under no particular thing. Fun fact, you only breathe out of one nostril at a time, and it switches. Just fun fact. Because, fun facts never go out of style. All right, so we're on page 403, and we're doing sort of the meat and the potatoes of the lab. So describe, and if you did this on the printout, I broke this question up so you wouldn't miss it. Describe the cellular composition and the location of olfactory epithelium. So the location is, you could say the top of the nasal cavity. You could say the cribriform plate of the ethmoid bone. So if you're looking here, here's a cross-section of your nose. It's like right up at the very, very top because the olfactory receptors are like coming out of your brain. So fun. So that's the location. You had to say something that means that, like top of the nasal cavity, in the ethmoid bone, cribriform plate, something like that. And then there are 3 different kinds of cells that you needed to have. You need to have supporting cells for 1 point, basal cells for 1 point, and olfactory receptor cells for the 3rd point. So that whole question is worth 4 points because you had nasal cavity, supporting cells, basal cells, olfactory receptor cells. Cool? Cool. All right. How and why does sniffing improve your sense of smell? It increases the amount of air and therefore like volatile molecules that interact with the olfactory epithelium. That's 1 point. All right, name 5 sites where the receptors for taste are found and circle the predominant one. I think I made a place for the predominant one. The predominant one is your tongue, so like that's where the most of your taste buds are, but some of them are on the soft palate, which is like back behind your teeth and like way back in your throat. Some are on the epiglottis. Some are on the pharynx, which is in the throat area, and some are on the cheeks. So that's 6 points, 5 points for naming them all, and the 6th point for circling tongue, or indicating that it is the predominant site. Number 4, describe the cellular makeup and arrangement of a taste bud. Use a diagram if helpful. So you could have drawn in class, I would have somebody draw the taste bud, this taste bud on the board. But pretty much it's a bulb, and in that bulb you have supporting cells, and you have taste cells, and the taste cells have like gustatory taste cells, and they have hairs that come out of this taste pore here, and then one of the cranial nerves, it runs out to the cranial nerve out here. So things you need to have in your answer. Oh, and basal cells in the bulb. So you need a bulb of gustatory receptor cells, basal cells, and support cells with gustatory hairs, and then the taste pore on the other side. Something like that. You should say they're in a circle. Or something that means that. It does not say this in here, but what are the cranial nerves that sense taste? Who knows one of them?
Facial, glossopharyngeal, and vagus.
Yes! Facial, glossopharyngeal, and vagus. Facial is 7, and I would VII. Glossopharyngeal is 9, IX, and vagus is 10. I would write those things down. Do you know why? Because they're going to be on your test. Yeah, because they'll be on your test.
Repeat those?
Yes, I will. Facial is 7, VII. Glossopharyngeal is 9, IX, and vagus, which is 10. So those are your 3 tasting.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Those are your 3 tasting cranial nerves. All right, so done with that, talking about lab experiments. Number 5, taste and smell receptors are both classified as chemoreceptors. And because they respond to dissolved chemicals, again, I would know all of the special senses and what kind of receptors they are. So I would know that like hearing is mechanoreceptors, taste and smell are chemoreceptors, Vision is photoreceptors, that kind of thing, for the special senses. So those are chemoreceptors because they respond to dissolved chemicals. Why is it impossible to taste substances with a dry tongue? Because they are not dissolved in a solution. Basic taste sensations mediated by specific chemicals or groups. Name them. All right, so salt is sodium. Bitter is alkali, or you could have gustusine if you read it out of the lab. Gustusine is one of those answers. Sour is hydrogen ions, because you think of hydrogen ions and acids. Sour things, if you think of things that are acidic, they tend to be sour things like lemons, citrus fruits. Sweet things, sugars, saccharins, and some amino acids. And you could also have gustusine for that, because that is a gustusine. Gustusine is a G protein mediated response. And then umami, which is a taste profile that that is sort of new. When I was a kid, a long time ago, they used to say that you had 4 tastes, and then, I don't know, we discovered Asia, or Asia discovered us, and the idea of umami comes from Asian food, and it literally means, I think, delicious, and it's like that salty, meaty flavor that if you think of Chinese food. And what gives it the glutamate is the answer for this is glutamate, and glutamate is the G in MSG. Some people are really, really allergic to MSG. It makes them like.
I am. I'm allergic. I get really, really bad migraines.
Okay.
I had migraines for a year, and once I found out that I was allergic, I've cut back a lot, and that reduces migraines.
Yeah, and it's in a lot of things. It's in things you wouldn't like, junk food that you wouldn't really think of it being added to, but it gives that umami flavor to things. So, and people really dig on that umami flavor.
What's the answer for that one?
Glutamate. And they're 1 point each for that.
I still love Chinese food, so I just take the headache, and I just have it every once in a while.
Yes, I think that I didn't actually mean migraines. I know people who, most people who have sensitivity to MSG get like very bad digestive issues.
Yeah, I get headaches, which is
Kirsten, we
weird.
used to get Chinese food every Friday.
Oh yeah, I would take
Wait, so
Friday.
okay, quick aside. Where is Chinese food open? It's happy birthday, Gavin, by the way. Where's Gavin? There. Happy birthday, Gavin! Is it really your birthday? Yes. I assume he's saying yes.
No, it's not.
Awesome. Okay, but more to the point, it's my daughter's birthday next week, and Chinese food is her favorite food. Where is Chinese food open? Like, where can you get Chinese?
There's one in Newmarket that I really like. What's it called?
Oh, no, we've been to the one in Newmarket. Audrey, what do you say?
Jade Garden. Jade Garden is like my favorite one. We got that a few days ago.
Jade Garden is in Newmarket is open?
Yeah, it's open.
Any place else? I'm not a huge fan of Jade Garden.
I don't know. Is Szechuan open downtown Exeter?
Yeah,
Szechuan is open.
Oh, okay.
Pine Garden is open in Exeter. Pine Garden food is another one. I'm pretty sure they're all open.
I don't think Jade Palace is open. Oh,
Hot Pot, Pink Bamboo, and Portsmouth is open.
okay. All right. I'm going to have to, that's good. That's a good thing. Jade Palaces are like go-to, and I don't think they are open.
Pine Garden is open.
Okay. That's cool. Thank you. That was a total aside, but important. All right. So going to number 8, the 3 things, and you had to substantiate them with things from the lab. The factors that influence appreciation of food. If you have taste, that is fine, because if that's like a no-brainer in like the best sense of the word, no-brainer, it is a no-brainer in that it is like not a great answer. Because taste, the whole point of this lab is that taste isn't that great. So your, it's not wrong, but write down the right answers. How's that? Smell is the first one. Smell, or it doesn't have to be the first one, but smell is one, and it should be the first one. So you should have an example from the lab, mostly that people could identify food if they couldn't identify them with the first two. With tongue manipulation and chewing, then they would probably be able to identify it with smell. Texture is a good one. And you should have substantiated it with like the tasting part of your lab, and temperature. So the three big ones are smell, texture, and temperature. However, if you had taste, that's okay. Just make sure you have the other ones as well. Which factors chosen is most important? You should have smell for this. Like, smell is the right answer. Substantiate your choice with an example from everyday life. So anything that you have, does anyone have like an excellent example of why smell is important to their appreciation of food?
I talked about like fresh baked chocolate chip cookies and how like even if I'm not hungry, if my mom is baking, I will get hungry and I will eat like 3.
Yeah.
And that's just because of like the fragrant like smell, and it's just like it fills the entire house, and that like activates like memories of how much I love cookies. Because like didn't you taught us at some point, or maybe this was in Brain and Body, that olfaction and memory are really, really tied together.
Yes.
So I'll remember how much I love them, and then I'll get hungry, and that activates like taste receptors.
Yeah, and when you think about it, like primordially, like there is that smell would be the way you find food. If you were like scavenging for food, smell would be one of the ways that you would do it. You would smell animals and then you would go hunt them. You would you use smell to identify whether or not a food is poisonous or not poisonous. I took this crazy edible mushrooms class from this woman who you would think maybe like edible mushrooms in the wild. Like we went outside and you're like, there was a whole lot of like me and hippies and a lot of like sniffing mushrooms, and like you do a lot of sniffing them and stuff to make sure that, and then it turns out that like a whole bunch of mushrooms are poisonous. Like she's like, well, 1/4 of people, this makes them really sick. So it turns out that like they're all poisonous, kinda. So it was fun though. It was really fun, and I put in for professional development for it. So awesome. So don't eat mushrooms outside. It's really, a lot of them are poisonous. I'm just gonna put that out there. Okay. And just while we're on it, don't inject yourself with bleach. Please don't inject yourself with bleach or drink Lysol. That's a thing now. Don't do it. It's a thing that you should not do because it is poisonous. Okay? If you're, do a news search. You'll figure it out. Okay, cool. Do not eat a Tide Pod, Owen. It comes from less reputable people than people who tell you to eat Tide Pods. All right. So, explain on your explanation of choices about why a cold, greasy hamburger is unappetizing. I can see your texts. I can see them. Stop. You're the worst. All right. Choices on explaining why a cold, greasy hamburger is unappetizing to most people. So, all of the characteristics that make a hamburger a good thing. Can I turn off these? That make hamburgers delicious, like the smell, the texture, change with the temperature. And so the taste is actually the same of the hamburger, but the smell is gone and the texture really changes. And most people find like cold fats not appetizing, whereas hot, like liquid fat, you're like, cool. You'll take your lobster and you'll dip it in liquid butter, but you will not, most of you, eat solid butter. I definitely have a kid who will eat solid butter, but
Actually, solid butter is pretty good.
she's a freak. I don't know, that's bad, man. Like, I don't know, for some reason there's like a cultural difference. You should not eat solid fat. But
Only when you're baking. You can eat solid
okay.
butter.
That's why they serve them in bars, so you can like carry them around.
Yeah. I don't know. Have you ever gone out and had ribs? Like, had
It's
like...
just like a granola bar.
Oh, yeah, it is. It's your keto diet granola bar. No carbs here. No, have you ever gone out to and had like ribs and you eat them the night of, but you can't finish them, so you bring them home because you're like, these are delicious, and then you take them out the next day and you can see that they are like 100% solid, like fat, and then you're like, you have to either really sort of with the bone, like that's what ribs are. It's not McRibs, Owen. Owen, I don't know that we need to hear everything that's in your brain. There's got to be a way to shut off chat, and I can't do it. Okay. All right, I'm figuring it out for next time how to shut off chat. All right. How palatable is food when you have a cold? It is not palatable. Because if you don't have smell, you don't have any taste. I did have a student like a long time ago now, like 5 years ago now, who was premature. He was very premature. And one of the things that he never developed was a sense of smell. And he was a very thin young man. And he said he just had a hard time eating food. And the thing that really sort of brought this, he said he liked very spicy food that like burned his mouth. Like really strong black coffee. But he said ice cream tastes like water. And that was like the thing that was like, yeah, right. Because if you think about it, ice cream is not very spicy. It doesn't have and it's very cold. So he's like, yeah, he's like, that's pretty much, people understand how I feel when I say ice cream tastes like water. And he just is like, nothing's appetizing. I don't ever want to eat anything because it's just like a chore to eat. So if you've ever I have only remember one time in my life having such a bad cold that food became like flavorless. But it is I worked with a veterinarian as well who, had a chemical, she had been in a chemical interaction and it had like essentially fried her olfactory receptors and she couldn't smell. And a big part of veterinary medicine is like sniffing things, funnily enough. And I am a super smeller, which is a fun fact about me. And so she'd be like, sniff that dog's ear. What does it smell like? Does it smell like, and there's like, you can distinguish different kinds of, like a bacterial infection from a yeast infection, just based on how it smells. So she would have me sniff a lot of things, which was not always the best time. Which brings us to, in your opinion, is olfactory adaptation desirable? Yes or no? And then explain your answer. So you can argue either of these things. I don't know. I think I'm going to go with no because olfactory adaptation, yeah, it's good. You don't want to smell everything all the time. But then you can't smell yourself, and it's how really smelly people don't understand that they smell bad. Like every once in a while they might get a whiff of themselves, but they are not getting the full picture. And it allows people to spend time with their dirty selves. So I am an advocate for being able to smell yourself. Okay. Tally up how many you got wrong. I'm going to do the math on the back here. But you have to substantiate it with why you think it was right or wrong. This is the world's shortest lab, literally. There's 59 points. So you have the number wrong. Minus 59 over 59 times 50 equals your grade over 50. Is it backwards? Whatever, figure it out. Awesome, Owen. Okay. So I'm going to make an assignment for you to submit those. Next week you have an exam, so keep that in mind. Keep an eye on, like, I would go and spend your time looking at the stuff that we had on, that I put up for next week because that stuff's on the exam as well. And your exam will be noon on Friday. Okay? Everybody noon on Friday. And we'll do the same thing we did before. Log in, take the test. You can leave when you're done. I'll put all the directions up. Cool. All right, cool. And when you actually, it'll be like last time. You'll log in, and I'll send you the link when you get in.
Did you say that we're sharing this with you, the copy, or are we resubmitting the copy?
You are resubmitting it. I'm gonna do it now. Hold on. So you're gonna submit a copy or a picture of your complete graded lab.
Do we do the whole? Do we submit the whole entire packet?
Nope, just the front page.
Okay.
All right, hold on, I'm gonna put it under week 6. And I just assigned it now, so it should be coming out to you momentarily. Cool? Awesome. Have a great weekend.
Did you get my Earth Day picture?
I did. Thank you, yeah. Good job, you guys. Makes me happy.
Did you say the exam was Friday? This
Yes.
Friday?
A week from
Thank you.
today. Yeah,
Sounds good. All right. See ya. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Alright,
And
thank you.
we'll have a meeting next week as usual.